All right.
So how you doing, boo? Let me do a quick check-in. How are you? We haven't
I'm
seen each other
good.
since the world shut down.
I know. I'm good. I'm thinking about the audio and stuff because I podcast. That's why I'm like coming
Exactly. You're
out
like, wait,
extra.
is my sound all right? Just to make sure.
Yo, the fan. I be in the middle of stuff like, yo, you mind telling your kid to be quiet?
Like, can
Like,
you chill?
like I had to kick myself out of my office because the kids was in there because I'm like, I'm not having any interruptions.
And I'm not doing this today. I know that's right. Well, I appreciate you coming in on this Saturday afternoon to come talk to me real quick. At first, because I always start recording ahead of time. So let me first say, thank
Oh.
you, family. I thought Zoom would have told on me, but you didn't peep it. I did it. Another trick. Thank you, family, for tuning in. I got you to another episode of Let's Get Naked with MzMo Filla. Listen, it's been a long time coming, Celeste. Like I've been trying to. It's crazy because you had me on your show mad long ago, and I had to get my life in order. And but she's here, guys. I finally got
This
Celeste,
is
the
me and all
therapist,
my glory. This is
in
how I
all her
am.
glory. I love it. Like nothing but smiles and goofballness, and I'm here for it. I love it. I'm all here for the laughs. But no, let me do a real introduction. I have my boo, Celeste, the therapist, in the building with me. I am so excited because she's like my unofficial therapist, whether she knows it or not. So like anytime we actually sit down and have a conversation, she causes me to get my life. So we're gonna have a therapy session or Let's Get Naked today. You
I have
understand?
a lot of unofficial clients. I just don't want to get
Right.
sued.
Right. She's like, can you send me your insurance? Because I'm tired of getting these unofficial clients. Send me the insurance, please. But no, I won't run your resume. If you don't mind, I'm just letting my family know, the Let's Get Naked family know who Celeste the therapist is.
You want me to let them know who I
Yeah,
am?
you gotta run your own resume over
No,
here.
I
You
know.
gotta
So I'm a therapist from
Yes.
Boston. And I talk a lot about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really passionate about it.
Yes.
And people sometimes call me the hood therapist
You are.
because
You're the hood therapist for real. Like you get us together and you don't even realize it.
yeah, so I'm just passionate about it just from
Yeah.
like my story and knowing that there's like another way to live. I
Yeah.
just really am passionate about helping people learn how to live and not just survive.
Come on. And I'm so glad you said that because my leading question is what would you say is your main point of your story where it made you decide, yes, this is my calling, this is my passion, this is what I need to be doing?
So yeah, it was probably a series of events of
Mm-hmm.
just me. I had a job at 19 at a shelter.
Okay.
Because I needed a job. I was going to college. America says you got to go to
Listen.
college in order for you not to be a bum. But that's a
Exactly.
whole lie.
Come
Like,
on, talk about it. Listen.
there's so many other things you could do. Luckily, I fell into a field where like it's become profitable for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the story for everyone.
Listen, I took Psych 101 and was like, maybe not.
uh, so I'm 19. People are I'm at this shelter, and it's a white shelter in Quincy.
Okay.
And so I'm talking to people like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know nothing about substance abuse, mental health. All I know is I'm giving people toothpaste, toilet paper, toiletries,
Uh-huh.
and just having conversation with them. And they would come back to me and be like, Celeste, thank you. And I'd be like, what did I do?
I was just giving you toiletries. What?
It was like, you listened. You
Yeah.
listened to me. And mind you, I'm young. In 2000, I'm 37. So
Come on,
that was a lot.
37. We lit. 83 babies. We lit.
So, back in the day, the homeless
Mhm.
population was actually older white, like males. It wasn't
Yeah.
the younger population. And I came in thinking like, what are these people going to get from me? Because I'm young and I'm Black,
Uh-huh.
but they got a lot from me. So that part, just listening to people find value in doing what I just did naturally.
Listen.
I wasn't trying to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then just me struggling for so long and learning that, I need to like pause, or I need to
Mm-hmm.
process my life so I can understand how to live better. So I think a combination of my story and
Mm-hmm.
just hearing from other people led me to realize what I wanted to do.
Okay. And can we just touch on really quickly on how much of a unicorn, so to speak, you kind of are in your field, finding a young Black therapist out here especially in the in the northeastern region,
Yeah.
is 1000% hard to find. That's why you're the hood therapist, Celeste. That's it. You gotta take all of us on. You
It's
gotta take us all on. But no, how do you feel it's your experience? How's your experience been navigating in a field where you kind of are? I don't want to say token because there's a couple other ones out there, but it's
yeah.
far and few between. So how do you
Yeah.
navigate in that world?
Yeah, so I think I didn't realize how much of a unicorn I was until
Hmm.
I went into private practice. I always, I went to therapy myself,
Yeah.
and then I will always encourage people to go to therapy. I
Hmm.
happen to find a person of color, not knowing that that's an obstacle.
Hmm.
And I had really good insurance. When I went into private practice in 2015, I realized that it wasn't as accessible
Mm.
as the system seems, right? You see stars, like no shade to people on the stars on social
Yeah.
media that are telling us to get therapy, but they have a different socioeconomic status than
Yeah.
the average Black person does. So
Hmm.
it's like my message is to help people see, like, yes, therapy's good, but that may not always
Be your route.
be your route, and it may
Yeah.
not always be as accessible. So you know um the part about me being a unicorn,
Hmm.
and how I navigate it, I think that every day, when I meet with people, I'm grateful and I'm glad I chose this. But
Yeah.
sometimes I wake up and I feel pressure because
Mm.
there's such a big need.
Hmm.
But my goal is always to, like, regardless if I'm posting on, like, my business or my personal, like,
Hmm.
I try to show people that they have the power. Like, I always
Yes.
say, like, every post is intentional, and I really want people to see they have the power, but because it can feel hard,
Yeah. Listen, let me just
Yeah.
first off start off. I can't even speak right now, okay? But no, let me start off by saying I need to give you your flowers, Celeste, because I don't think anybody can match your work ethic. Do you understand me? Like, there's nobody that I've witnessed in this field that matches the work ethic of
Thank
Celeste
you.
the therapist. Do you understand me? And like you said, your posts are intentional, and I pay attention to your page on a daily basis. I'm watching your story. It speaks to my life. Like I said, you're my therapist and don't even know it. You don't have to even talk to me. It's just through your posts. I'm constantly stealing and sharing. Like,
That
yes,
makes me happy.
speak to my life today, Celeste. So I wanted to know, I see it firsthand, but I want my audience to know, how have you been doing through, because this whole pandemic hit and it caused us to shift completely and pivot
Hmm.
everything and all the plans we thought we had for
Yeah.
2020. I've watched you honestly flourish, quite frankly, during this pandemic.
Thanks.
I've seen more of you during this pandemic than beforehand. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
So how are you feeling and how are you coping right now with this
Yeah.
whole switch and everything?
So when everything first happened, I actually January 22, the summer of 2019, I had already made an intentional plan to go full time online.
Hmm.
So December 2019 was my last time in the office. My clients
Okay.
struggled with transitioning, but they eventually transitioned.
Hmm.
January 2020, I'm online full time. March, pandemic happens. As far as work
Yeah.
wise, like, that wasn't, I was fine. I was like, I'm
Like,
watching
I'm already
Netflix.
good.
Yeah, like, I'm already working from home. I'm watching
Yeah.
my Netflix. But then something in my spirit was like, yo, Celeste, you really should do more.
Mm.
Because when I first realized there was going to be this, like, stay at home stuff, my first thing was like, damn, mental health, like, people are
Yo,
going to be struggling.
listen.
And that like kept, like, my spirit was full, for people. Like, I already know, like, God's purpose for me
Hmm.
is to help people heal, just
Yes.
through, like, my story, and
And you
through,
being you, your
and
aura.
just be me and me,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
so when things started transition, initially I was fine, but then I started to feel the pressure. I'm talking to my clients. First we're talking about past trauma and incidents. Now we're all like, I'm
Everybody's
all
going
dealing with
through
this.
it.
Everybody's going through it. I might have a little sprinkle that might. Everybody's struggling, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, yo. And I start to feel the pressure. Like, for me, when I'm overwhelmed, I feel it in my body.
Hmm.
So then I started to come on my podcast 5 days
Yeah.
a week. And as far as how I'm doing,
Hmm.
I'm a very intentional person.
Uh-huh.
So I had to really be more intentional on feeding myself first thing in the morning, because my practice grew. What
Okay.
I've been doing grew,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew I couldn't be sustainable if I didn't start
Take
with
care of
me
yourself.
first.
Yes.
So I'm actually doing really well. Like I honestly, I'm doing really well, and I'm just
I see you
happy.
flourishing,
Yeah,
sis. I mean, working
yeah,
out
I'm
every
doing.
day, and I like how you call it your medicine. I think that's so dope.
Yeah, yo,
Because
the thing about working, and I realized this through talking to people, there's this like thing about you have to have a certain body, and I never like I'm mindful of that. Like I don't want
Mhm.
people to think because I have money to go to a gym, right? For me, it was always about mental health. Like it
Yeah,
was always about it. And I know moving my body allows me to get more clarity.
come on.
And so I don't want to alienate people
Who don't work out or
who,
who's not on that
yeah,
healthy
like I want them
plan.
like, just
Yeah.
go walk down the street. Like I be making it mad, like just walk
Yo,
down. Yeah, it's not
I am
that.
notorious. I
Yeah.
suck at working out. I will never go to anybody's gym, but you better believe I'll get out and walk the street to Dorchester until I
Yeah.
can't walk no more. Just the same,
Yes.
that same exact thing for
Yep.
clarity.
Hmm.
Now, I appreciate you, letting us. And I mean, again, I've watched you.
Thanks.
I'm watching you. I'm living vicariously through you because I'm not that disciplined yet, sis. I'm not that disciplined yet.
We gonna get there though. We're
Get
gonna
me
get
there.
there.
Get me
You
there.
working on it.
I'm working on it. But yo, of course, I always want to touch on why exactly I brought you onto the show. And this is kind of going along the lines of my self-sustainability series that I've got going on. And I've already talked about, physical safety with, obtaining your gun license legally. I've talked
Mhm.
about, gardening and being able to feed yourself if need be, because we can't, I'm feeling like we're getting to a space where we can't depend on the system set out for us.
Yeah.
But a big, huge piece of self-sustaining is making sure
Yeah.
not only is our physical okay, but our mental is okay. So I brought you on here today to kind of like, of course, spread the message of mental not healthness, mental health being a huge part of self-care. And also finding out ways to help ourselves. Because I think people, Black people specifically, it's so taboo, just the
Mhm.
concept of mental health. I know we're getting better at it and people are waking up a little bit more, but there's a lot of people that are walking around, 1000% aware that there's something wrong, but
Yeah.
not willing to kind of like do the work to label it and figure it out and how to cope with it.
Yeah.
um so my first tips are for those like myself. So I know for me, I've been diagnosed with depression.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that I don't want to go the medical route where I'm taking pills every day
Mhm.
for it. So I try to find more holistic ways of dealing with life. So, I do the meditation, the journaling, the, getting outside, making sure I'm soaking up some sun, getting my music on. Music is a huge
Mhm.
piece
Mhm.
for me. But for somebody like myself with this pandemic, I'm sheltered way more than I used to be. I
Mhm.
know now we're kind of like getting a step to being able to be outside a little bit, but I just want tips for people like myself. I had to figure out for myself, but Celeste can give y'all some tips
Mhm.
on how you can maintain your mental stability when you're in such an isolated state these days.
Yeah, everything you said are really good ways. One thing that this pandemic has allowed to happen is for us to kind of go back to basics on like what we have, like literally in front of us. A lot of times we make excuses. I don't have time to do this or do
Mm-hmm.
that, and a lot of it it has to be created.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that MzMo is talking about that she's doing, she's been doing it for a while, so
Yeah,
like
I got it down packed.
yeah, so it's kind of it feeds her soul.
Yeah.
And so like I really want to encourage people that may like hear her and talk about it passionately, know that it's not always easy to
No.
start this process.
Gosh, it
um
definitely, and I'm glad you said that because I felt weird my first time meditating. I don't know about you. I was
mhm.
like, okay, I'm just supposed to sit here and, and
Yeah.
be quiet. I think
Yep.
the longest I lasted the first week was like 2 minutes without being disturbed. I'm like, my brain was all over the place. So yes,
Mhm.
that is, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's not something you just pick up.
Yeah.
It's an intentional practice every
Yeah.
single day. But, and the reason why I want to talk to you specifically is, me, my message is, I have a therapist, but therapy is
Mhm.
might not be, the
Yep.
answer for everybody. So for those who don't have a therapist, what would you
Mhm.
suggest for them? Like we said, the things like starting to practice meditation, journaling. Is there any other tips that you could think of?
Yeah, so those tips are good, but I really
Hmm.
want people to think about their mindset shift,
Okay.
and thinking more about the fact that like we are good survivors. We wake up in the morning, we set our
Hmm.
alarms for 5 in the morning to get up for work,
Hmm.
even when we don't feel like it. I
Yeah.
really want people to think about the things that they're going to need to do to start living
Okay.
will require that same muscle of like doing something when you don't feel like it. Right.
Discipline.
So the when if you have grown up living in dysfunction or toxicity, if you're trying to introduce a healthy way of living to your body and your system, your body's actually going to reject it. It's going to be like, yo, Celeste, what are you trying to do? Like, we don't do this stuff. We
This is
don't
too
walk.
much.
What is this? When a therapist told me about like positive thinking, I'm like, how is that going to change like what I'm feeling? Like, she doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I got sick and tired of being sick and tired and feeling how I felt. So I decided, like, why not try something different? Like, how is it going to harm me if I'm not doing well right now? So I think for people that may not have a therapist, I would encourage you to create an intentional system, right? And I would encourage you to like Google feelings wheel, right? And I always talk about free things because I don't want money to be a barrier.
We shouldn't have to invest our money into mental health. Like we should.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have it. So many people don't have it, right?
It's a lot of the source of our mental health issues.
Exactly.
Okay.
So grab a feelings wheel, go on Google, type in feelings wheel. A bunch of different versions will come up. If you're a creator, you can create your own using their model. Start asking yourself every day, how am I feeling? Okay. A lot of the things that we are struggling with stems from what we're feeling. And what we're feeling is partly due to some of our triggers. A lot of times we have had trauma in the past that's never been processed. That trauma still stays with us. So when something else happens, all it does is feed on that trauma that's already there. So start with like asking yourself how you're feeling. I would also start with adding something to your day every day that's different and make it part of your routine. So one thing is like meditation. So let's say like you take a shower every day, create a system where you're meditating in the shower every day. That's something you're already doing. So it's easier to implement something that you're trying to do different with something you're already doing, right? So try to like be mindful and do something like that. And give yourself grace. Like you can even Google positive coping strategies. A whole bunch of different lists will come up. Grab look at what appeals to you, right? Music may not be appealing to you, but maybe coloring will. Meditation may not be appealing to you, but maybe music will. So really like start to grab some things that you can try and put it in your calendar, set an alarm. At this time, this is what I'm going to do. I encourage you to do it first thing in the morning and create a system where our brain loves routine, right? When the pandemic happened, we were so out of routine. Some people like really diminish because they don't have a routine.
Yes, I had to force myself into it.
Yeah, you gotta force yourself into a routine. So force yourself into a routine. Keep your goal in front of you. What's my goal? I want to live and not just survive. And remind yourself those other things that you've done for other people, and the things you've done to survive for work. If you can do that, that means you know how to do the living part. Like you can push past the feeling. You're not going to feel like doing it. Like you're just not. Like, let's just get that out the way. A lot of these people preach these messages, but they don't talk about the struggle that it takes to get to that part. There's
the maintenance
of it. And I still, to this day, MzMo follows me. I'm still doing things to make sure that I live. You don't just arrive and think you're good. Like it doesn't work that way.
And what I do appreciate when I follow you is you show every single side of it. So there's mornings, like you said, you wake up and you're like, I don't feel like taking my medicine today. I would rather roll over and go back to sleep. That's real. People need to see that because all we hear from the motivational speakers is just do it, go and go and go and go. But they don't talk about those days when you wake up like, I don't feel like fucking going.
MzMo, I never feel like waking up in the morning.
Who does? Like, who does? And let's also put it out there. It's important to push past that, but there are days where it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have it today. That's it.
Yeah.
It's important to not beat yourself up and just know tomorrow I'll get back to it. But today I'm gonna be 100% okay. And
I love that you said that, because that part, I forgot about that part. That part people struggle with when they don't do it. And I'm like, oh, you're not, I'll say to my client, oh, you're not human. They start laughing. I was just saying something simple. You're human. Like, you're not always going to want to do it.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest part, because we beat ourselves up at the fact that we stop for one moment that cripple ourselves from even
Yeah.
being able to move forward because we're too busy beating ourselves up over one day.
We're
But
our biggest hater.
yo, can
We're
I
our
tell you
biggest
about,
hater.
I had the biggest epiphany with myself. Like, okay, so aside, okay, I'm over here giving all my diagnoses out. But aside from depression, I also deal with anxiety. So it's like it's a hand-in-hand situation for me. So I recognized, even with me doing Lez Get Naked, I had to take a little time out between, health issues, things of that sort. Things were coming out in different ways where I was like, all right, body, I'm going to chill out and figure out what I need to do to get myself back so I can get back into the swing of things. And I realized my anxiety literally crippled me. So like I had just got my new setup. You see this mic, I got my mic going on. I got, my new laptop, new recording interface. And I'm like, I don't know how to work any of these things. I don't know. My anxiety shut me down literally like for weeks. I had recorded some episodes, never even went back to listen or edit them because I was so afraid of, I don't know what I'm doing, that I would not even touch it. So it took like one day. I think I had literally nothing else to do. And I was like, all right, let's see if just see if you could do it. Literally, that's all it takes, is taking that one little moment of, let me just see if I can try it. And it literally never fails. It happens for you. It works. I literally went into Logic Pro. Yo, Logic Pro is the devil, first of all. But anyway, I logged into Logic Pro and was like, all right, let me just see. Let me pull up a couple of YouTube videos and figure it out. Within 5 minutes, I was editing. I was editing multiple episodes. I'm like, bruh, I literally took 3 weeks off because I was panicking about the idea that I might have to learn something new. That's how anxiety and our brains work. So I was saying that on the line of our brains being our biggest haters and our biggest, hurdles over accomplishing things, especially new things in life. Yeah, I mean, this ain't about me. It's about you.
No, but but I'm glad you brought that whole example up, because that's one thing. A lot of people are struggling with anxiety, so that's a really good example. I tell people the remedy is to just do it. You struggled for 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
bro. And then you finally did it, and it relieves it. And I tell people, I'm always starting something new. You always see me doing something new. And people are like, I wish I could just do it the way you do it. And I say, like, oh, my stomach's turning. I have a lot of anxiety when I'm starting this stuff, like, especially when it's new. It could feel so overwhelming. But because I know, like, especially if it's a passion or something that's sitting in my spirit, I know that my mind and body knows what I'm capable of. So if I sit on it, I'm just going to be sitting in this uncomfortable space. And so many people get so comfortable with being uncomfortable, and they never do anything, right?
At me next time, Celeste. All right, just at me. All right. Just be like, Mo, this is you.
No, okay, I'm talking to the people. I'm talking to the people.
I'm feeling like you came for me. No, I'm kidding. But that's real talk. That's exactly what it is. Like, yo, you got me together yet again. Another Celeste get Mo together moment. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all. So just think about that. The next thing that you're struggling with, ask yourself, because I'm all about shifting your thought process. Just ask yourself, do I want to sit in this anxiety, or do I want to just do it? And yes, when you do it, you still will feel anxiety. I'm not trying to say, but it won't. Away. The longevity of it is different, right?
Yes, you're right.
And so some people get so used to just being in it that they don't make the leap to do it. So just do it.
Oh, and I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's so powerful in itself. Because you're right. And that when you're in that angst moment, it's so uncomfortable. And there are a lot of people who live their entire lives in that state.
That bothers me.
Yo, their entire lives. I was one of them. Honestly, I was living maybe the first 30 years of my life just constantly in an angst state, and didn't recognize it until I had to sit down and pour all my stuff out in front of a therapist. And again, doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be a spiritual leader, whoever it is, but you have to get it out.
You have to get it out.
Get it out.
It sits in us, right? Like the pain sits in our body.
Literally. And it reflects through different ways. I know for me, it's in my stomach. So like I suffer from things like gastritis and things. Anytime I get stressed out, my stomach feels it horrendously. As I'm getting older, the devil's trying to work on my vocal cords. And I'm like, the devil is a lie. Like I refuse to let that. And that's when I really became hardcore on self-care. And I hate to use that word because it's so watered down.
I know it is. It is.
Self-care was so important. All the energy I'm trying to put into this world and trying to help everybody else, I got to make sure I'm putting that same energy and making sure I'm good too. So listen, I'm learning from you, Celeste. Even through watching, I'm learning from you, sis. Look, I came over here prepared, but then kept my notes all the way to the side. So now I got to turn to the side to look at it. All right. So I know for me, what led me to therapy was honestly dealing with someone that I knew had signs of mental illness, but
Mm,
didn't know how to deal with it. So this
mm,
person had signs of mental illness, still, to this day doesn't address it, doesn't anything. But being their partner in life, it started to be a trigger for me. Like, it started to be a huge mental anguish for me. And I started to get into therapy for myself first and recognize, oh, I'm actually in therapy to learn how to deal in this situation here. Um, so for people, and especially, like I said, Black people, we don't talk about it. We don't have those conversations. So I wish I could have had a conversation with my then younger self when dealing in that relationship on,
yeah.
how do you start that conversation with the person you love? Like, hey, not to say like, oh, you're crazy, something's wrong with you, but I see something and I'm concerned. How do you have that conversation with a loved one? Is that even possible?
I think, being authentic,
Yeah.
and being honest about yourself, we all go through things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if you come at, like, if you're somebody that's not talking about you, I'm not trying to say you have to like vomit all your struggles, and
No.
especially if it's a loved one you're close to, and
Hmm.
if it's something pertaining to something you notice, maybe because you've dealt with it or you
Yeah.
understand it from, it's like, hey, I noticed you said X, Y, and Z, or I noticed this happened. Like, I'm just checking in to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
Never come in it on an angle of you're trying to fix somebody or you're trying
Yeah.
to heal somebody. Pay attention to when they are resistant,
Hmm.
because sometimes especially when you love this person, right? Like
You just want them to
family,
get
or
help. I want
yeah,
you to
you
get
just
help.
want
Yeah.
you end up wanting more than them and doing more
Yeah.
than them, and then you stressing out and you
Listen,
struggling.
I keep telling
So
you, just at me, okay? I just keep telling you to at me, all right? Because
no,
listen, that's
but the
literally
love
what
be so hard.
that's
You
literally
love
what
so
happened.
hard.
I loved this person so deeply. I'm like, we've got to get into therapy. We've got to get into therapy because I want not only my stuff to be fixed, but I want your stuff to be fixed
Yeah.
too. And it doesn't work like
It
that.
doesn't
It
work that
doesn't work like
way.
that.
And that's the hardest thing you can do, is watching someone that you love struggle. I've worked in emergency rooms over the years, and having to talk to parents and having to
Hmm.
talk to them about boundaries, right?
Yeah.
About putting in place, because like you're not teaching them anything, especially now when it comes to struggling, especially if they're doing things to harm you or
Yeah.
they're being mean to you. Like, be mindful. You got to you're not helping the
You got to protect
situation.
yourself
You got
first.
to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and people are going to get the healing when they are ready.
You're right.
So if you don't see any results and you're struggling, just remind yourself that you're probably planting a seed or you're adding the
Mm.
water, right?
Hmm.
Something else is going to happen. They're going to get sun and eventually like see the light.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
you
I like how
can,
you put that. I like
yeah, like
that.
I think that'll help the person that's struggling with the loved one,
Yeah.
because they can't see it, and as we're growing, whether we're struggling and trying to grow or entrepreneur trying to grow,
Hmm.
it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And so people are going to do it in their own time, and so I would encourage the person that's struggling with the loved one, to really like make sure you're taking care of yourself and
Yeah.
make sure you're not doing more work than the
The
person is
person
doing.
is himself.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I'm glad you said that part as far as don't go into it thinking I can fix you.
Yeah.
I think if you go into it just kind of saying, hey, I see something, or not even saying like, hey, I see something, but just kind of saying, are you all right? Is everything okay?
Yes. Mhm.
And I think if we can get past that taboo topic of you're crazy or something's wrong
Yeah.
with you, it'll be a way easier received. It's all about how it's
Absolutely.
presented. I presented it horrendously. I'm not even going to front. I was
It's not your
like,
fault.
I overloved. I was just like, we got to fix you. I've got to fix you because I love you so much. and,
My ego can't take that. My
yeah.
ego can't take, I need to fix you. What you saying?
Like, what's
Like,
wrong with me? Like, clearly,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. And it
Yeah.
won't receive that. So at me next time. That's all I'm saying. So I like to, kind of get to the meat of everything, and I don't want to ever draw things out. So I don't want you to feel like I'm rushing you or anything, but I feel like we got some good stuff in there. And I just kind of
Good.
want to give my people like a laundry list of things that they can keep in mind when they're in those dark moments specifically, or, just struggling with anything mental health wise. Understand self-sustaining starts with making sure you are good physically and mentally. You can't do nothing else if your physical and your mental isn't
Yeah.
okay, period. So can you tell my people what you got going on? Because I know you always are stirring something up. You always got something coming, Celeste. So what do you have coming in the near future?
It's not planned that way. It's not like I have this long list of things
She's
I
like,
want
no,
to do.
it just kind of just comes up and
It
I just
just
do it.
literally, once I stop one thing, then it's like God laid something else on my heart. It
Yes, you
just
better just
happened.
move, move in the spirit. Come
I don't
on.
know how not to move. So, I'm a podcaster. So I have
Yes.
a podcast called Celeste the Therapist Podcast. And I talk to people that are empowering other people. My goal is to help people shift their thought process, and just kind of see things like, that fault and responsibility are two different things. And I come from a life of trauma where things were not my fault, but as an adult, like, it's my responsibility that I'm okay.
Yes.
So like that's kind of the goal of my podcast. And then I just have a transformation community that I've built. It actually, August is the first month. Every month there's a new book, that has to do with healing. The thought process behind that community is because I realized that people struggle. There's a lot of people that really want to change, but they don't have the community or the environment to change. And I believe that we're not supposed to do life alone. And so
just
a
be
lot of
hitting me with
times,
all the gems. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, but you keep hitting me with the gems. Go ahead.
we're not supposed to do life alone. And with this pandemic, you can feel alone. And so, I want people to not only have the community, but have the education around why they may be struggling now. So like my first book has to do with adult children of immature parents, the different type of parenting styles, and how depending on what type of household you grew up in, why you may be struggling now, right? And so one prime example is like a physical injury, like if you was beat or anything like that, you can understand it. But an emotional injury of not having your emotional needs met is a big struggle that people have. So that's just an example on like one of the books that is in the community. So there'll be 2 live book discussions that I'll lead, and then a live question and answer every month that I'll lead. So that's what I have going on right now.
Come on, Celeste. Always busy.
And I don't know whatever God directs my path at next, that's where I'll be.
I just want to tell you thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the work that you do, not even just on the strength of the show, but thank you for the work that you do for this community. You are a godsend. We joke around about you being the hood therapist, but the hood needs you straight up. And we're thankful for
I am
you.
the hood.
You are the hood, literally. That's why it's so well received. And like I said, just on the strength of how you move, your aura, everything about you. I love you, sis. Like,
yes, thank you. I love you too.
So tell everybody where they can find you if they're looking for Celeste.
Yeah, so if you just go to Celeste the Therapist on all social media platforms, you'll be able to find me.
Keep it consistent. That's what I'm talking about. And as always, you can follow me on my podcast. This is the podcast that I'm on. But you can follow my personal page, MzMo Phila, MzMo.Phila, on all different platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can follow the podcast as well, Lez Get Naked, all one word, with an underscore on Instagram and Twitter, without one on Facebook. You can also shoot us an email if you want any, if you need more information on Celeste. I'll make sure to post it on the episode. But if you have any questions that you don't want to reach out to her directly, or you need a middleman, I don't mind being the middleman. So send me an email, Lez Get Naked, all one word, the number 1, @gmail.com. And as always, family. Well, first, before I address the family, Celeste, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is
Thank you for having
overdue.
me.
I've been dying to get you on. This was my inspiration, y'all. I want y'all to understand that. Like Celeste the Therapist podcast, if y'all are not listening, what the hell are you doing? Like, get your life, okay?
Thank you.
And I still go back and watch old episodes. You know what I'm saying? I listen to old episodes because it still gets me together for today. Do you understand me? So thank you for taking the time out on this Saturday to come sit with me. And family, thank you all for tuning in. As always, I ask that you listen with an open heart, open mind, and open ears. And as always, keep the conversations going. I love you, family. Peace out. Don't you hang up yet, Celeste. I'm going to just stop this recording.